Hello, Earth-based Englishman here. Today's subject, goddesses. There are lots of them, but these are my musings. This is the understanding that I've got so far within my journey. Your journey might be longer, more in depth, and I'll be looking at that in another video. Blessed be.
The great goddess, the lady, the maiden, mother, crone, Bridget, Isis, Hecate. These are all goddesses. How we think of these divine spiritual entities, beings, these other things. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the great goddess was worshipped by many different civilizations throughout history. It mentions about ancient Oriental Greco-Roman deities called the Great Mother of the Gods, also called Sibyl or Agdidis. Sorry about my pronunciation there. They also equated her to other goddesses like Ops, Rhea, Tellus, and Ceres. It doesn't go back very far, but they all appear to be mother goddess figures, where it's about fertility, reproduction, and caring, about giving life to the gods, humans and beasts alike. There are many different goddesses, just like there's many different gods. But when I say gods, I'm referring to whether they are male or female. To me, it doesn't matter. They are these personifications of nature. Gender is not part of it. They just are. And this kind of association of the great mother of gods throughout the ancient world and into the more modern one, where people are worshipping the great goddesses or the great goddess. I know from personal experience that there is a lord and lady or a great goddess within Wicca. But this is also through other different traditions as well. Whether this is Isis, Athena, Aphrodite, Hera, Frigg, or Freya. There's lots of different goddesses. Having an earth-based religion, an earth-based tradition, doesn't necessarily mean equating the great goddess or the lady to an actual named goddess. It could be the earth. It could be Mother Nature. It's been used in TV adverts in that respect. I say it, what I'm referring to is the name. But Mother Nature has a massive impact on our lives. And a lot of people seem to forget this. They seem to forget that the idea of a goddess is part of the natural order. At some point or other, we have said Mother Nature. If that's not a goddess, what is this concept? The idea that there is only one God, this is male, even though back in the scriptures in the Bible, doesn't always say that God is male. It just says God. Then bringing it forward, the God may be female. There's a movement at the moment that has the Christian God as potentially being a female. And some people are worshipping the God as a female. I mean, I might be wrong on this. It's not part of my religion, but it's things that I've heard. So whatever I say, or whenever I say God, it's not male or female that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the personification of something, whether that is a tree, a river, the sky, or the earth. If we go back far enough, the goddess is a sky goddess, and the god is an earth god. When we're looking at the ancient civilizations that you'll learn about in school, it flips it round. So we've got an earth goddess and a sky god. These concepts flip and change depending on the civilization and the time within history and whether it's a surviving religion or not. Because there are many religions that predate even Hinduism that are not around anymore. which is the longest single religion that has been going. These other religions have fallen by the wayside, like Sumerian, Babylonian, Mesopotamian. They've fallen by the wayside. Whether this is through the collapse of the civilization or through wars, and it's been the religion's been reappropriated. This is not a bad thing. It keeps the religion or the gods and goddesses alive. There are still some people who try to tap into these religions. Prime example is Druidism. It seems to have been killed off by the Romans, and some people say that there were still some Druids around, but then through the Victorian era, it seemed to have a resurgence. So whether we choose to have a female god, a goddess, or a set of gods and goddesses, it's down to personal preference, whatever suits you. I was listening to someone singing on YouTube earlier over the last few days. And they mentioned about everybody's more concerned about money and how much money they've got rather than the things around them. And if we're going to leave a planet worthy for our children, then the children need to be worthy of the planet. Very strong and powerful thoughts, but it's true. Within an earth-based religion, we look at living with the planet, not having the planet do things for us. May have said that slightly wrong, but it is essentially that. We're here as guests of the planet. The earth, Mother Earth, is one that we need to live with and be a part of. We don't change the earth for us. We should change for the earth, which is what that line within that song essentially means. That's the only way we're going to survive on this planet, this beautiful, wonderful planet of ours. It's got so much energy, so much potential, and just as we have, by connecting to everything around us. If you have a pet, you can understand this a bit more. If you're able to go outside and just feel everything around you, you'll understand this. Having separate gods and goddesses, different titles, different names, allows us to focus on each individual thing as a separate entity. If we have everything together, we end up with a kind of blame culture like we've got at the moment. Because if it's not that God, then it must be us. And we blame it, each other. Because it's not me that's doing it. It must be you. It can't be God. Whereas in the past, it was a different God's domain when something happened. That God's doing this. That goddess is allowing this to happen. We're doing this for this God, this goddess. We're going to achieve something in the name of that other, the divine. The idea that there are many gods and goddesses, that they are connected with the elements, with earth, with aspects of nature. Whether this is things within the planet, with the planet, or animals, or with things that we are doing ourselves. I've mentioned in a previous video that there is a god of war, goddess of war. War is not nature, but nature does war with itself. At least they have battles. So it's a part of human nature and what people and animals do. They battle for territory, just like we do. But a lot of humans seem to do it for greed rather than survival. We learn a lot through taking note of the things that happen within nature. Where the female is predominant, they're the ones that have the say. The males go and collect stuff, but the females are the ones in charge. We look at lions, the females are the ones that gather together to do a kill. But if there is a bigger threat, protective nature, that's where the males come in. That's because in the animal kingdom, females control the area where they live. It's how we used to be when we lived in caves and when we came out of caves, when we went into tribes. The females looked after the place of the area, that closer in part. And if the female said, no, that's not going to happen, then it doesn't happen. The males went out and gathered food. So is there any wonder that the matriarchal idea of religions, of goddesses being the ones in charge, why that hasn't expanded and grown? Because it seems to be an obvious selection. And in the past, it was the case. Now, it might seem as if I'm rambling, but these are thoughts that go in my ideas that are coming to me. I worship goddesses. I call on the goddess during a full moon and a new moon, which we've had recently, and I'm sure some of you do as well. This idea that we can connect the moons to goddesses, then why can't we connect anything and everything else to goddesses? Well, we can. The idea that we can connect the sky or the earth to a god, then obviously we can connect a goddess to them as well. If you want to do some kind of ritual or meditation that allows you to connect with the forest or the woods, look for the green man or the green lady. There are other gods and goddesses around as well that are about fertility. I've mentioned a few already. And that fertility is not just about people, it's about the land, the crops, the fruit that hangs from the trees. It's not a case of this god is superior to that one. It's that one has a niche. We can look at the goddess Kali or Freya or Venus. These all have different aspects, whether it's war, fertility, beauty, poetry. If you're wanting to have a safe journey across a set of hills, fields, the sea, there are different divine entities that you can call on, whether it's a god or a goddess. Or they may be specifically associated with a different element that you are wanting to venerate. I spoke to someone who was from northern Afghanistan a couple of years ago, and their family used to venerate and follow a fire personification, not necessarily a god or a goddess. It makes no difference which one, because it was about the element itself that they were venerating. It was part of the mountain that they actually went up, did rituals with, and celebrated. Yes, we have males and females within society, within our own households. But do you have to venerate a male because you're male or a female because you're female? Absolutely not. Whatever you feel most connected with, pick a deity or an element or a spirit that is connected with that thing. If you're a Native American, you'll be associating or potentially associating with the great buffalo or the great white eagle or another animal spirit. But that doesn't mean you can't do it over here in the UK if that's what you feel connected with. I know some people that are connected with stone circles or particular birds. There are many within pagan society who connect specifically with ravens, just as an example. We have hills and mountains, and if you're associated with those particular things, invariably there is a god or a goddess that's associated with it. Vesuvius has a god associated with that mountain. If you look back in Roman times, they actually venerated the mountain um, before it destroyed Pompeii. If you feel inclined to follow just goddesses, then find a goddess that associates with you or with what you associate with. If you are just inclined to be associated with a certain element, then follow that certain element if it works for you. I will still be venerating the great goddess. I will still be venerating the gods that I follow. And by gods, I do mean male and female. I'm only human. I have flaws, but I look to the gods and goddesses for answers and inspiration. I don't expect them to answer things for me. The gods don't do that. They put little bits of ideas and thoughts and things in there so that you can find the answers yourself. So they give this inspiration. And I hope through what I say, you find inspiration too, or you notice inspiration, even if that is to look beyond the gods and goddesses or things that you look at the moment so that you can find something more substantial, something more connected with. And if that happens to be the great goddess, the mother of goddesses, the earth goddess, Gaia, Mother Earth, then if it's for you, then do it. Thank you for listening. Blessed be.